So if an adult woman now, a clever university graduate woman, has sex and then regrets it, then it can't be her fault. It must be someone else's fault. So it has to be the guy's fault.
Yes.
You don't date someone at work anymore now. You lose your job over it.
Yeah.
So 20% of men are dating 80-90% of the women.
Cal Shearer, a young man ostracised by fellow undergraduates, and then he committed suicide.
Yeah.
And as far as I understand it, all this guy did was have sex with a girl, and then afterwards she said, I'm not sure I wanted to have sex.
Yeah.
And as a result, he was ostracised by his fellow, and then went on to kill himself.
Yeah.
Now, forgive me if I'm seeming cold-hearted here, or I don't think anything horrific happened in that situation, or not enough for a man like that to commit suicide.
In the universities now, if a woman has sex and then regrets it the next day, that's obviously she was coerced into that, so it was a type of rape. That's what many universities actually think now, the interactions between men and women are. If a woman changes her mind the next day or days later, then it's rape, because you must have coerced her to do that in the first place for her to change her mind.
So he was hounded into killing himself by a bunch of woke undergraduates who decided to believe her story, her side of the argument, with no evidence or whatever, and as a result then killed himself.
Yeah. 30 years ago, the answer would have been, you're a bit of a tart, you aren't you, love? That would have been the answer 30 years ago. You slept with him on the first night, and now you go, yeah, you're a bit of a tart. That's why we had those social norms and that societal shame. It was to keep, in those circumstances, women under control. For them not to be tarts and sleep around. Where now, women can be tarts, but they're also victims. So if an adult woman now, a clever university graduate woman, has sex and then regrets it, then it can't be her fault. It must be someone else's fault. So it has to be the guy's fault. There's a case in America where university students, a boy and a girl, both get drunk, have sex, and next day she claims rape, and it's proven guilty. He's guilty because she was drunk. He was also drunk. He was
drunk, yeah.
But both drunk, and because a woman who's drunk cannot consent, so he gets punished. Feminism wanted responsibility and wanted equal rights. So therefore, you should take on the consequences of the actions and decisions you make. But then feminists went, oh, I don't like the sound of that. That means I'm responsible for stuff. That means I can get blamed. No. Let's twist this so no matter what happens, we can blame the men.
But I think that's tragic, because this young man has died as a result of this, hasn't he?
He has.
I mean, I suspect he may have not had a strong personality, or maybe
he was autistic.
Or was he?
He was also autistic.
Yeah.
Now, if I go back to my teens and early 20s, you're looking.
I'm worried that's what story we're going to hear. Nick.
When you're trying to, meet a woman, you're trying to have sexual relationships and stuff like that. You don't know what you're doing. It's uncomfortable. You're trying to do small talk. You're buying them a drink. You're trying to hook up. And all the pressure's on men. So the men have to do all this. The women just stand there and they go, yes or no. And next guy, then she has a choice. Men don't have a choice.
Correct.
It's very difficult. And you're trying to learn this as you're going through your teens and your 20s. Mistakes will happen. Men will be clumsy. I've said lots of things that I look back and go, Jesus, I shouldn't have said that. But that's how we learn. But men are under so much pressure now of saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, that they can be persecuted. So you chat to a girl at a bar and you touch her shoulder. You can get in trouble for that now. That's assault, sexual assault. There's all sorts of things you can't do now that we would have.
You can't touch a girl's shoulder in a nightclub when you're having a drink.
You can be accused of assault if you didn't want you to.
Really?
Sexual assault, yeah. It's a nightmare now for men. And women wonder why they're not being approached by men anymore. Women wonder why they're not being chatted up anymore. Because a lot of men are scared stiff.
Yeah. And do you think that's part of the reason why there are kind of less children being born, less relationships, why quite a few men and women find that they're not getting partners as they get older?
It all contributes.
Yeah.
So when I was growing up, most of the people I knew who met their partners met them through work.
Yes.
You don't date someone at work anymore now. You lose your job over it.
Yeah.
So there's the big chunk of how you'd have met someone.
That is a real shame, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then we'd meet people in clubs and nightclubs, but people are going out less. Now it's all online. So
the majority of relationships now start online.
Exactly.
It's changed dramatically.
Yeah.
It used to be, as you said, it used to be friends.
Yeah.
Then works took over, but now like 80% is online.
Yeah, and women wonder why they're being used and abused online, because a small percentage of men who have got the looks, who have got a good job, are being matched with all the women online.
Yes.
So all the women, that's why women now say all men are pigs. All men aren't pigs. You're just dating all the same men. So 20% of men are dating 80-90% of the women.
Yeah.
So they're kids in a candy shop. All the women want them.
Was it? Did you and I discuss this the other week?
It was a private conversation we had.
Oh.
Yeah, it wasn't on here.
We're not allowed to have that conversation.
We can do. Just don't name anybody.
I don't think you named anybody.
No. We had a private conversation.
No, we did. We had a private conversation.
We don't have it on the podcast.
But what you said, what you said was really interesting. The good-looking guys get all the women, and a lot of them choose to go with as many women as they can.
Why wouldn't you?
Including some, with the greatest of respect to our listeners, including some of the less attractive women. Yeah. So what you said is the less attractive women then start to believe they can snag the alphas, the tens, basically. And as a result, they start turning down the betas.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is a really interesting idea. So they start to assume they can do, trying to do the better. They can do better.
They have an overinflated value of themselves because
at one point they've had sex.
Because these couple of guys who were tens had great jobs and were fantastic, everybody wanted. Because they came out to my flat and slept with me.
Yeah.
Then I must be the type of women they like. They didn't take me out. They didn't date me. They didn't take me for a meal. They came out on Saturday night with a bottle of wine. We watched a movie and they slept with me. And they think no, you were used. No, the Americans called it a booty call, where you have certain women you don't take out. You don't want to be seen with them. You just call down and sleep with them because it's better than your hand.
I think we're going to lose half our audience.
Yeah, but the women out there need to know that. And then what those women...
Where have you heard this, or have you read this somewhere?
Well, part of it's experience. So I've been single most of my life. I've dated hundreds of women and been out. So I was.
So you're in the second category of the not so good-looking men who can't pick up a woman because the alphas have been going there.
Well, I was lucky because there was no internet then, and I've got an amazing personality. So I got away. If I base it just on looks, I'd have struggled. So lots of women are rejecting men they should be picking.
But normally they would be
because they think they're better than they are, and they're still waiting for an amazing guy to come because they've had an amazing man before. And so women now are getting pickier and pickier, and women have always been picky, rightly so, because women invest a lot more in getting married and having children, and they put themselves at risk more. So I get that. And there's many men out there who'd make wonderful husbands and wonderful fathers who don't get to meet any women anymore now, and those men are invisible.
Yeah.
And that's why we've got more and more single men and more single women.
Yeah.
And the women will tell you, where are all the men? Don't get to meet any men.
You're just ignoring them.
You just don't see them because they don't hit your value.
Yeah.
So therefore, subconsciously, you don't even see those men anymore.